What the president is doing today is he's going to bring heads of the formula industry together with members of his own administration who may be in a position to do something about it and address the formula shortage. So we're talking about the Surgeon General, Vivek Murthy. We're talking about the President's Secretary of Health and Human Services, Javier Becerra. Protest leaders there, mostly women, are calling for even larger demonstrations Saturday and Sunday, knowing full well that just by protesting, just by removing their hijab, their headscarf, they are literally putting their lives at risk. But remarkably, it's a risk they've been willing to take. He said the recent behavior of the court with these decisions is outrageous and destabilizing. And he made some news there by saying that he does support not overturning the filibuster, but he said making an exception to the filibuster for this decision. What we've heard from the president, Adrian, and from his economic team is that they acknowledge that, yes, Americans are struggling because of inflation. They're certainly feeling that pinch, but they did put a bit of a spin on it, saying that the U.S. is poised more so than any other country to rebound and to grow stronger. She made news on two fronts. One is that she did say that, yes, there should be an investigation for war crimes against Russia and that the world should be watching it. Up to this point, the White House has not forcefully and explicitly said that they see war crimes committed and thrown their support behind an investigation. Look, if you read the affidavit that the Justice Department put out, it almost reads like a spy novel. Unfortunately and disturbingly, it is all too real. And what's more remarkable, this wasn't some rogue lone actor. The Justice Department says that this man was plotting to kill Americans here in the U.S. with the blessing of elements of the Iranian government. We woke up to violence on multiple fronts. That attack in Lviv on the western part of Ukraine, that missile attack comes as we know that Russian forces are regrouping and refocusing in the southeastern region of Ukraine as well. And all of this, as intelligence shows us, that Russia's planning on trying to end this war brutally over the next 3 weeks or so, which means that the White House is preparing. Well, we're waiting to see when President Trump takes the stage. He's expected around 8 o'clock Eastern time, Nicole. You can feel the energy here, which is pretty typical at a Trump rally. But I can tell you, I think it speaks to how important this race is to both sides. That the former president decided to come here to Ohio and stump for J.D. Vance one day before the election.
Let's assume in the next 6 months we're able to develop an effective vaccine. Do we have the infrastructure right now to be able to manufacture it, deliver it, share it with enough people where it actually makes an impact?
It's such a great question. We're actually spending money.
I want to kind of clarify there. Are you saying that if President Zelensky is asking for those MiG fighter jets or more aid, more sanctions, that Congress wouldn't move or the president wouldn't move unless we're on board with all of our NATO allies in Europe?
Right now what we're doing, bringing that alliance together.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about the Hail Mary. There is no time left on the clock at this point for a Hail Mary. The goal for Democrats, at least right now, is not to get these bills passed at this point anyway, because they know that that is not on the table right now. The goal, I think, is, as they say in politics sometimes, to get caught trying, to show your base and your voters that you are fighting for what they think is important.
Why would you want to do it part way?
But, Mr. Leader, on 9/11, before that, after that, we've had terrorist attacks. We were just focusing this investigation on 9/11. It was a pivotal point in the nation's history. Wouldn't you do that now for January 6th?
Well, this whole point...
Do you think that in 2024, Donald Trump should be the nominee on the Republican side?
Well, that's a long way away. You don't even know if the president said he'll run again.
Would you support him if he did?
If the president is the nominee, I'll support it.
Liz Cheney not only outright defied her party leader, she not only accepted Speaker Pelosi's invitation to be on that committee and serve on it, but almost immediately she put out a statement. We can put some of it on the screen here, where she says she is proud to be on this committee. We heard President Barack Obama say that the thing he remembered most about his inaugurations was the immediate feeling going outside to the podium, seeing the near million people in the crowd. Well, Joe Biden is not going to get that opportunity. We have socially distanced seats here. Even if the House moves expeditiously, couldn't legal challenges still hinder your work and significantly slow it up? Well, I think it feels like one of those days where history is going to be made here on Capitol Hill. Think about it. 300 days this war has been going on, and President Zelensky has not once left the borders of Ukraine until today. He's going to be flying across the Atlantic, meeting today with President Biden at the White House, and then eventually having the rare honor of addressing a joint session of Congress at the invitation of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. And look, what he's been masterful at so far is garnering support, garnering sympathy for the Ukrainian cause in the form of money, weapons, and aid. A major development, Natasha, we were able to scoop the fact that there is at least now a consideration among McCarthy and his allies for lowering the threshold to actually win the bid for Speaker from winning a majority of votes in the House to just a plurality, meaning you wouldn't need to get 218 votes. You would just need to get the highest number of votes of anybody who is nominated. Now, that may not be likely necessarily because it would require something like half of the 20 Republicans that have been voting against McCarthy to agree to that. That Republican bill was supposed to get a vote this week. It is now delayed because of opposition. Surprisingly, not from Democrats, but from some more moderate Republicans. Now, we just got exclusive sound with House Majority Leader Steve Scalise about this, and he tells us this bill is now going to be rolled over into a larger and broader package, a really pivotal point in this conflict right now, where there is serious fear Vladimir Putin may opt for a nuclear weapon. Just in the last 48 hours, what have we seen? He's called up 300,000 reservists to now join the war effort in Ukraine. We use that term reservists with a grain of salt, by the way. This is essentially a draft. And it is a major shakeup, Adrian, a shock maybe a year and a half ago or so. The polling told us this was going to be the likely outcome, and it's because more so than anybody else, Liz Cheney has really staked out a position. She has made herself the face of the Republican opposition to former President Trump, voting to impeach him, being the vice chairperson of the January 6th committee, and continuing to call the former president a threat to democracy. After Sandy Hook, nothing legislatively changed. So we thought, is this moment going to be different? And what he told us was he realizes probably nothing major. You know, Democrats would like an assault weapons ban. He said something like that he does not think can get done realistically in this Senate. But he said he thinks some Republicans would be willing to work with him. There's no gray area. This Mississippi law does directly violate Roe versus Wade, and the precedent set, banning abortions at 15 weeks. So if this 6-3 conservative majority on the court allows this law to continue and it rules in favor, it totally opens the door for other states to make stricter abortion laws. That's what this pro-life crowd certainly wants to see. They're projecting from the White House a sense that the president has a deal that would unite all 50 Democratic senators, including those holdouts mentioned in Sinema that you talked about. But he's going to be addressing Democrats today on the other side of the Capitol. He's going to be speaking to House Democrats, where there is still a large group of these progressives who feel, frankly, like a lot of their biggest agenda items have been left out. All of these brought forth by former employees of the Washington Commanders. Clearly, Congress doesn't think the NFL is taking their role investigating this seriously, so they're asking the NFL Commissioner, Roger Goodell, and the team's owner to come testify. In communities where there has not been that investment, parts of Oakland where you are from and parts of Detroit where I'm from, yes or no, do you think fewer officers would make those communities more safe?
Here's what I know to be a fact.
The White House says that would be too much of an escalation, so they're not going to go the route of a no-fly zone. What they are doing is continuing to filter in weapons into Ukraine through countries like Poland and Romania. Last week, the U.S. and NATO allies did more than 17,000 weapons, including those anti-tank missiles.